The story begins with a bunch of rebellious U.S. Marine Force recon soldiers, led by a general named Francis X. Hummel, taking control of some dangerous M55 rockets armed with a harmful chemical called VX gas. In the meantime, the FBI laboratory in Washington, D.C. receives a bomb packed in a wooden box. Agent Stanley and Marvin are sent forward inside a cell for examination of the box. Upon observing VX gas starts to come out of it, and they realize there's a bomb inside. The VX gas starts to surround them, melting their safety suits. So Stanley and Marvin inject themselves with an antidote and successfully dispose of the bomb. On the other hand, the Marine Force soldiers in Alcatraz, San Francisco, hold 81 tourists hostage at the rock prison cells. Then, General Hummel calls at the Pentagon and threatens to use dangerous rockets with VX gas to kill people in San Francisco in the next 36 hours. However, he says he won't hurt anyone if the government pays compensatory money to the families of Marines who died on illegal missions under his leadership. As the call ends, the Pentagon and FBI hold up a meeting and decide to send a team of SEALs, led by Commander Anderson, to quietly retake the island and free Hummel's hostages. Along with him, Dr. Stanley Goodspeed, who earlier finished off the VX gas bomb, has to go too to deal with the VX gas threat. However, their only way to go into Alcatraz quietly is through the underground tunnels, and to accomplish this mission, they decide to take help from John Patrick Mason, a prisoner who has once escaped from Alcatraz through the tunnels. The Pentagon decides to release him so that he can accompany the SEALs and help them carry out the plan. On the other hand, Mason thinks about an escape plan after being released from the prison. He takes a shower and gets a haircut, then calls over the FBI director, James Womack. Mason, while talking to him, pushes Womack through the rooftop. Everyone starts to gather around, so Mason loosens his side of the string, ties it to a chair, and escapes to meet his daughter. After much fighting, Stanley finally gets a hold of Mason and brings him to the laboratory. Later, they start planning how to carry out the mission, and Stanley realizes that everyone's life depends on him, which makes him anxious. At the same time, the Pentagon gets ready with another plan to stop Hummel's VX gas rockets. They prepare special thermite plasma bombs that can burn up the poisonous VX gas, but it can also harm life on the Alcatraz. Womack and his colleague Ernest Paxton guide the team through monitors once the team lands on the island. Unfortunately, the rogue Marines discover them and trap them in the shower room. A tense argument ensues between Hummel and Commander Anderson, which results in the team shooting the Marines. However, the team is without a cover and is surrounded by the Marines. Despite Hummel's pleas for his men to stop firing, the entire team of SEALs is quickly killed, with only Stanley and Mason surviving. Paxton, who works under Womack, insists they should stop Mason and Stanley as they won't be able to succeed on their own. On the contrary, Mason gets himself ready with the necessary guns to go on to the battlefield himself. Womack then informs Paxton about Mason's background as a former British SAS officer whom his government had tasked to steal J. Edgar Hoover's confidential files. These files contained information on us state secrets, from alleged alien landings at Roswell to the JFK assassination. Mason was captured at the Canadian border 3 decades ago and has been held in secret, without a trial, all this time because he refused to disclose the hidden whereabouts of those files. Womack believes that Mason's skills can complete the mission successfully. Back at Alcatraz, Mason and Stanley are on their own, and Mason tells him that the prison cells are a Civil War fort. As they move forward and go to the room where the stolen rockets are kept, they are met with a group of Marines. Mason shoots at them and kills the group. Then Stanley goes ahead and removes guidance chips from the rockets so that they'll splash down after 500 feet. There are 15 rockets, out of which 3 are kept somewhere else. The Marines call for the soldiers near the missiles, and Mason hears them. Mason shouts at Stanley to leave, but Stanley is almost done with the 12th rocket. The Marines arrive, but thankfully the duo escapes from the room. However, as they enter the tunnel, another group of Marines enters and a fight ensues. Mason and Stanley end up killing them. Then, Mason suggests buying more time from Hummel and goes to Hummel while Stanley searches for the remaining 3 chips. Mason introduces himself as a British SAS officer. While they chat, Stanley finds a chip and is suddenly attacked by some Marines. With only 52 minutes remaining to reach the deadline, Hummel locks up Mason and Stanley with the hostages. Mason helps escape the prison cells and suggests Stanley to leave as he thinks Hummel is not a murderer and won't shoot the rockets, but Stanley is reluctant and goes back to the rock. As the time ends, under pressure, Hummel commands the Marines to launch a rocket. But before it can hit the living beings, Hummel changes its direction and it lands in the sea. However, there's still another rocket with its guidance chip intact. On the other side, thermite. Plasma weapons are sent to San Francisco, poised to attack the island. Back to Hummel. His sudden change in the direction of the rocket causes a feud amongst the Marines, and everyone points their gun at Hummel. Stanley and Mason watch the scene and shoot at the other men to save Hummel. However, Hummel gets shot as well, but before he dies, he informs Stanley about the location of the last rocket. Stanley runs to the location and removes the chip while holding the VX gas pearls, but a Marine captain attacks him. Stanley launches the chipless rocket and the captain gets stuck on its tip, flying into the air with the rocket and dying on spot. Stanley then goes to the roof, but again, a Marine starts to shoot at him from afar. However, this time, Mason kills the shooter. Lastly, Stanley is attacked by another Marine captain named Fry, and to save himself, he puts a VX gas pearl in Fry's mouth. Fry dies because of the direct contact, while Stanley injects himself with an antidote and survives. Stanley then lights up the green flares, indicating that everything is good now, but the thermite plasma rockets are coming in full swing, and even though they change direction after the flares, one of them still hits the island's backside. The impact throws Stanley off into the sea, from where Mason again saves him, fortunately. They arrive at the shore, and Stanley gets a call from the FBI. He tells them about his survival and lies about Mason's death. As the call ends, Mason tells Stanley where the microfilm with all the state secrets is hidden and escapes. Later, as the FBI arrives to take Stanley home, they inform him that all the hostages are safe. Then they inquire about Mason, and Stanley lies again, telling them that Mason is dead and his body has vaporized. The movie ends with Stanley and his pregnant wife Carla finding the microfilm on a vacation, where Stanley asks Carla if she's curious about finding out who killed JFK. The Rock, released in 1996, directed by Michael Bay, produced on a budget of approximately $75 million. The film's production involved extensive use of Alcatraz Island, also known as The Rock, which was a federal prison from 1934 to 1963. The Rock was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Sound. Despite the mixed critical reception, The Rock has since been considered a classic of the action genre and is noted for its exciting action sequences and memorable lines. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Turn on the notifications and leave a like to help the channel out.